This hour of CBS Sports HQ presented by Caesars Sportsbook. And we are going to pick every game against the spread. Brady Quinn and Pete Prisco standing by. But first, let's take a look at one of our brand new rookie starting quarterbacks. And that would be Davis Mills, someone who Pete Prisco has been very high on. He is expected to start for the Texans, the third-round pick on a short week. Likely to lead the way against the 2-0 Panthers on Thursday. Tyrod Taylor could miss a couple of weeks with a hamstring injury. Let's go back to draft night. Pete Prisco handing out the grade for that pick.
Of course I'm going to give it an A. He's my guy. I'm all in on Davis Mills. I think this could be a good situation for him. And with a little more seasoning can become a good NFL quarterback. And so I give this grade an A. I like this move.
That was draft night when he was picked.
Facial expression when you said that?
Well,
and by the way,
you are entitled to your wrong opinion.
Is 2 weeks enough seasoning? Is that the seasoning you were talking about?
No, he needed to play.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's what
but he needs to play. And this is a good opportunity for him to play.
Sure.
You don't think he's going to be good?
Look, I think it's a tremendous drop-off from what they were getting from Tyrod Taylor, who literally made this team competitive. I think they were winning, too, after Tyrod Taylor run that in. Ran in the touchdown. Either way, he's keeping them in the ball game. I don't see that being the case for Davis Mills.
Davis Mills will play better than your picks were last week.
Oh. No. And let me own up to this. Okay. Let me own up to this. And Pete can relate to this, okay? My struggles last week, oh, gosh, look at that. 5-10-1. You know what it was? It was like going on that first date, which was the week 1 of the NFL season, and I was so charmed and I was so wooed by a number of teams that in week 2, I felt confident about them. I thought, for example, the Detroit Lions, at the worst, would maybe be able to get a backdoor cover. Or the Seattle Seahawks, they're playing at home against the Titans. They should be able to take care of business there, right? Wrong. I got fooled. I got bamboozled. Just like that first date when everyone puts forward their best foot and then reality sets in dates 2 and 3. That's what happened to me in week 2.
See, I'll put it in better terms.
Okay.
You took the fish hook and you bit.
No.
You were a big fish last week, Brady.
Let's put it this
Now,
way.
hang on. You were below 500 as well.
Yeah.
But 7-8-1's a winner in this on this
Well,
side.
you beat Brady.
Right.
Yeah.
You still lost money.
Okay,
But I went 5-2 with my
Seattle
best
Seahawks.
bets on Pick 6 podcast.
Yeah,
5-2.
The Seattle Seahawks had not lost a home game, leading by 15 or more points in 52 games. And you're saying you foresaw that happening? I mean, my greatest fear came to light, and I told you this last week. If they run the football with Derrick Henry, it just so happened that it happened in the second half where they started to pull.
But you know what they say? You can say this never happened, that never happened, but it did happen, and you know what that made you? A loser!
And we're not counting the over-under picks on the yearly total for their standings.
Right.
So Pete Prisco
Well,
has
that's
a
because
two-game
Pete
edge.
doesn't like working hard, so he
Well, I
only does
gave a
half
couple.
the
I actually have.
Oh, do you have them this week?
Yeah, I don't have them all. You did them all.
Brady's got them all.
You must
That's
have,
right.
You must have done really well in your over-under picks.
Someone did their homework. That's all I know.
You do really well in your over-under picks?
It was better against the spread. It was better.
Could have been any worse.
That would not be hard. Thursday night football. Let's start off.
Chris
the
is throwing
matchup.
shade.
We've seen. Hey, I was perfect last week. I didn't.
Were
make
you?
it.
There you go. Yeah.
Texans at home, getting 7.5. Davis Mills. Pete, your boy. Why do you call him your boy again?
I just like him. He
you
was
like
my
him?
guy.
He just likes them.
No, I watched him coming out. I thought he was going to be a really good quarterback, and I still do. And he did some good things last week. He came off the bench threw an interception. I didn't think it was an interception. It was debatable. They didn't challenge it. They should have. And then after that, he played pretty well. He settled in. He did some nice things. They were in the game. When he was in the game, it was 24-21. He brought them down to a touchdown. Then the Browns scored, and they couldn't get back into the game. It was 24. He made it 24-21. So I'm not that worried about him. I am worried about guys outside are banged up a little bit. That's a concern. And I think, you know, when you look at that Carolina defense, it is downright nasty. I watched them on tape today. They look so fast and so athletic across the board. And that's going to be the big challenge for them. So, but again, this is their first road game.
Hey, Pete, what's your pick?
Well, pick's easy. Texans plus the 9.
9?
It's actually 7.5. You want to rethink that?
I think it's back up to 9.
Pete,
It's
did you
at
buy a
7.5.
couple points?
No, I'll take 7.5. I take
Okay.
8. I'll take 6.
Wow. All right. That's supreme confidence in a small sample size. I am a little bit concerned about the fact that it is a short week. The Texans are playing home. You do have a little time to prepare for your Davis Mills. He's not getting thrusted like he was last week off the bench, but he's going up against that defense you had talked about. We saw a little bit of that last week. It was a young group. They've continued to get better. And Sam Darnold, it's like he's reborn again. He's got help. Christian McCaffrey out of the backfield. We know his impact on games, but Sam Darnold's connection with Robbie Anderson too is going to be a problem in this game for the Houston Texans defense. So I hate the hook here, but I'm willing to go ahead and lay the 7.5 points. I also like the over in this game. I think short week. Sometimes we expect there's not going to be much scoring. I think this one will hit the over. I think the Texans will score a little bit. Obviously, the Carolina Panthers will score a lot more.
All right, let's move on to our Sunday games. 1 o'clock, the Cardinals 2-0 against the Jaguars 0-2. Pete, let's start with the Jaguars. What did you make of the statement put out by Urban Meyer with the background? A little too early for that, right?
I mean, 2 weeks in? Are you kidding me? That's a bit much. We're going to play hard. We're going to work hard. Everybody works hard and plays hard. Why does he even have to say that for? I just didn't like any of that, and I've been a critic of his so far, the way he's handled his team. I don't like it. I think his coaching staff is highly overrated. I think the offensive system is awful. I think the receivers don't win outside. I think the quarterback held the ball. They played zone. He didn't handle it very well. And other than that, they have a pretty darn good football team.
So what would you call that, bulletin board material? I mean, is that little statement going to have any impact on this game whatsoever?
My statement?
No. The statement the Jaguars made.
No. I didn't think it was that big a deal. Okay. From a bulletin board.
So do you want to talk about the game then now?
Well,
Okay.
Okay, the game is trouble. This team is not very good. They're not a good football team right now. The defense played better last week. But Teddy Bridgewater still threw for over 300 yards. Kyler Murray's going to go nuts against them. They're not going to be able to keep up. They need to do something offensively. They put 2 guys over here, 1 guy over here, and they run ISO routes. There's no creativity. Let the kid use his legs once in a while, get outside the pocket. I think there's a big disconnect between Urban Meyer and Darrell Bevell, which is surprising that he hired him in the first place. Well, look, I'll take the Cardinals.
This offense is a blend of Darrell Bevell and Brian Schottenheimer. Now, the head coach is going to have a say in some of that, but that's whose offense this is. Now, the point you made that I think is most significant, we saw this in preseason, is their pass catchers can't separate. Everyone looks glued onto every defender, and that's a tough position to be in for any quarterback, let alone a rookie quarterback who's not getting great protection or great help out around him. And oh, by the way, their defense is getting a bunch of points. Not as much last week in week 2 as week 1, but still enough where it's going to be a struggle for them. So this is a bad matchup. Look, I think most teams will probably admit that when you look at the playmakers the Cardinals have on the outside, the fact that Kyler Murray at any point in time can take off and create a big play with his legs or extending plays downfield, that's an issue. And then up front, that Arizona Cardinals defense, that front 7, they're going to get after the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's going to be a tough, long day for Trevor Lawrence. So I like the Cardinals in this one, and I'm going to say the under because I could see the Cardinals scoring a good amount of points, but that number looks too high for me for the Jaguars to keep pace.
Like 31-7 or something like that? Is that what you're thinking?
I'm not going that far, but I could see the Cardinals put up a lot of points.
0-17 is a hashtag already. It's trending.
It won't be trending much longer. It'll be 0-18.
Well,
right?
18 in a row.
Well, 17 straight.
Right.
And you think they're going to go 0-17 this season. Okay, let's move on to a game that we have to pick because we have to pick every game. 0-2 Falcons, 0-2 Giants. Somebody has to win, we hope, unless there's a tie. Usually I have notes for games. All I have here is have at it, fellas.
My issue is I keep trying to believe, and maybe this is just my ignorance and my immaturity, that the Falcons and Matt Ryan are going to turn the corner here. Like at some point, we're going to see a group that they've been drafted high, they've had time to mesh and gel together, especially the offensive front. At some point, they're going to put it together. I'm betting this is the game for the Falcons. And if they don't, I'm off. I'm out of it, all right? I'm not picking the Falcons the rest of the season.
Rest of the year.
If they can't win this one, or at least cover the spread, all right? They're getting 3 points, so I'm taking the Falcons in 3 points. But it's just Matt Ryan's too good. They have too many playmakers on the outside. I know their defense has struggled. But this is a team that I think my concern is up front, the interior defensive players for the Giants. They probably will get the better of the Falcons. But I'm betting on Matt Ryan in this matchup. I think he's going to do enough to not only cover the spread but win the game. But this is also going to be a game where there's not many points scored in it. I like the under.
I had a real tough time with this game. And when I came down to it, eventually I went to Daniel Jones because I thought he played well against Washington. I think he'll play well in this one. Atlanta's offensive line is awful right now.
Somehow. How many first-round picks are on that?
I know. And they got to protect him, and they have protected him. Now, they played a really good defense last week. The Giants' defense isn't quite there, but I think the Giants are going to find a way to win this game by a touchdown. I'm with you, though. Matt Ryan, you would expect more from him in that offense, but it's hard to throw when you're on your back, Brady. He's been on his back a ton I'll take the Giants plus the point.
Giants
minus
so close to getting that first win last Thursday night.
If the Giants do lose this game, they're 0-3. Do you get any sense that there's a hot seat coming for Joe Judge?
And Gettleman.
Well,
For
Gettleman
sure.
maybe more so than Judge,
Yeah.
but it's still. I mean, if they go to 0-3, and you have to look at the rest of that schedule and how it's going to play out, you got to start thinking to yourself, this is another year it's not working out.
Well, here's how it plays out. Gettleman will go after the season, and then Judge will get one more, and the new GM will get rid of him after next season. That's how it usually works, right?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Sounds like the case we might have in Chicago with Nagy and Pace. We'll see. We'll pick the Bears a little bit later. Saints and Patriots, both 1-1. That's our next game. The Patriots are giving 3 at home, and the question is the Saints team closer to what we saw in Week 1 or in Week 2?
It's a great question, and it's hard to really get a sense of it because in Week 1 we didn't see Jameis Winston put in very precarious situations. He was given plus field territory, was able to take advantage of that. They ran the football effectively. Their defense was taking advantage of what looked to be a rusty Aaron Rodgers. Week 2, you can go ahead and take a complete 180 when you're looking at the Saints team and how Jameis Winston played. So, look, I don't feel great about this pick. I'm going to go ahead and take the 3 points. But I could see Mac Jones continuing to build off of what we've seen so far, which he's looked by far and away to be the best rookie quarterback of this year's draft class.
And he has 1 touchdown pass. And that's the amazing thing of it, 1 touchdown pass. But I watched the Saints tape this morning. My gosh, they were bad against Carolina. They got dominated up front. The offensive line, when they lost Eric McCoy, you didn't think it would be as big as a loss as it is. After watching that, they had no idea where Carolina was coming from the entire day. And Jameis Winston got hit a ton. Belichick will come at him with a bunch of different looks. They'll come after him a ton. I think that the Saints have been impacted by the whole hurricane displacement, going to Texas and flying to play their home opener. This is technically 3 straight road games. It's basically what it is, even though it was technically a home game in Jacksonville. So I like New England to win this game by a touchdown.
Saints last one on the road here before they finally return home to New Orleans to play in the Superdome. We hope. The roof was on fire earlier this week for the first time this season. Saints just 128 total yards in that loss last week, the fewest in 20 years for that franchise. All right, another 1 p.m. Eastern time game. The Bills favorites at home. They're giving 9 to the Washington football team, Pete.
Yeah, this Buffalo team, you know how I feel about them. I thought they'd go to the Super Bowl and
Looked
win
great
it.
last week, though.
They did look great, but Tua went out of that
Yeah.
game, and they weren't going to win. Miami wasn't winning that game anyways. But Buffalo got the offense going a little bit. It's still not where it needs to be, and something's just off right now. This is a tough team to get it back going again. Now, Washington's defense hasn't been as good. It's been a disappointment. The front 7 hasn't been as good. Chase Young hasn't been as good. But at some point, that talent will start to show up. I think they'll hang around in this game. I thought Taylor Heineke did some good things. I think they'll hang around against Buffalo. It won't be a blowout. I'll take the points.
9 is a big
number.
Big number. But I'm betting on the Bills here, and I'm betting on the Bills Mafia showing up, home game, loud crowd, Tyler Heineke on the road, struggling, trying to do too much, watching what he's going to see from Josh Allen, who, because of that front, I do think he's going to have to scramble around and make some plays. And I think Heineke feels like he's that type of quarterback too. So I think he presses. I think Sean McDermott, that defensive scheme, Leslie Frazier, they get the best of them. And I'll go ahead and lay the 9 points. I think the Bills get back on track. You had that Super Bowl prediction. I'm not going that far, but I think we start to see their true colors and little flashes of what we saw last year in 2020 in this particular game. They take advantage of an inexperienced quarterback.
You got to admit, the offense has been just a little off. So.
No, it's sputtered for sure the first couple of weeks. There's no doubt about it. And look, that's the NFL, though. Yeah. All right? As much as you want to try to be critical of some of the coaches or decisions at times, these are the best in the business. And when a team has a year like the Bills did last year, there's going to be adjustments made. They're not going to allow you to come back around and beat them with the same things that you beat them a year ago with. So it's an entirely different year, and that's where the Bills are going to have to kind of reinvent themselves and find what that identity is in 2021.
Sportsline says there is great value on the Bills to win the whole thing. They're winning it all in 16.5% of their simulations. Sportsline's all about the simulations. They're plus 1,200 at the Caesars Sportsbook. That equates to just 7.7%. So great value there, Pete. Are you sticking with Buffalo as your pick to win it all?
After watching the Chiefs' defense the other day, yes, I am. I think they're the best team. They didn't play well week 1. They got ambushed in week 1. They weren't ready for a defense that usually only blitzing twice. They weren't prepared. I thought Brian Dable did a terrible job in that game. So Brady's right. They got to readjust to what they do.
What is it, Tampa, chopped liver over here? I mean, Tampa Bay Bucks aren't a part of
because their defense has played really well lately, too.
Their offense has played well enough it doesn't really matter, does it?
Two pick sixes for the Bucks.
Right.
Just want some points.
But they've been giving up some points, too.
Yeah. But if you score,
They've been dominant.
got a shot.
They've looked like the best team in the NFL. Can you admit that?
The Bucks, right?
Bucks.
The best offense in the NFL, yeah.
You're not going to say the Bucks look like the best team in the NFL, right?
Well, they're the number one on my power rankings, so clearly I think they're the best team.
There you go.
That's what we're trying to get to, Pete. We're trying to get you to admit
That's
things
not
you've already
being the
admitted.
best team now. It's being the best team in December.
It's almost like
Tampa Bay, by the way, wasn't the best team during the season last year. They were a wild card team.
Sure, but they've been undefeated since that point in which they've lost. They haven't lost since.
Right.
They look to be the best team.
They look to be the best team.
It's weird. It's almost like you don't want to admit. I don't know if it's a schematic advantage thing or next thing I know he's turning into Matt Nagy.
But no, I think they're the best team in the league right now. But I picked Buffalo to win it all, and I think they will win.
So you're going to stick with that?
Sticking with
it. Okay. Speaking of Matt Nagy, we got the Bears at the Browns coming up. Both teams 1-1. Both teams dealing with starting quarterback injuries. Looking more and more like it could be Justin Fields getting his first start.
Right, or maybe not. We don't know. I mean, Matt Nagy was.
Nagy's not going to tell us anything.
No, he's not, because it prevents a schematic advantage. It didn't before week 1 when he told everyone that Andy Dalton would be the starter, but apparently before week 3, now it's a schematic advantage, I guess. Look, the game plan is going to look entirely different if it is Justin Fields. There'll be more quarterback run. The reads will be simplified. I assume they're going to try to get him out of the pocket a little bit and utilize some of his strengths. And so it's not going to look like what we saw with Andy Dalton. That being said, I like the Browns in this spot. Look, Baker Mayfield played through the shoulder injury last week, so I think he's going to start. I think he's going to go. And the reality is, whether or not he's at 100% doesn't matter, because they've been running the football so well, and the Bears defense has taken such a step back that I look at it and say that's what they're going to hang their hat on. It's going to be the rushing attack, maybe some play action pass, and utilize what they have to out of Baker Mayfield. But for the most part, to me, I'll lay the points with Cleveland. I think this is the easy win here for them, and I'll take the under.
All those Bears fans, supposedly, and Coach was up in Indiana when the injury happened, and they all cheered. I mean, that's just cowardly.
Well, I mean, you have those kind of fans everywhere.
Yeah, but they wanted Justin Fields.
What did we see? What do you guys think about what we saw from Fields?
That was average at best.
Well, he was running a game plan that was probably better suited for Andy Dalton. It's tough for a guy.
Whatever game plan he was running, throw into the linebacker, it shouldn't be in it.
No, it's not. and by the way, I don't think that was his intent last time I checked.
Well,
I don't think anyone goes out there with that intent.
It was a terrible throw. It was a terrible read.
And that happens, especially for rookies.
Right.
So let's give him a grain of salt. If he has the opportunity to practice this week, it'll probably be game plans, reads, progressions, things that he's more comfortable with. I think we'll see a better showing from him if he is going to be the starter. I'm still waiting to see, though, if Andy Dalton is going to allow him to go back in there and be the guy.
Look, I don't think the Bears are a playoff team, so I would play Justin Fields anyways to get on with it. But, for any Bears fan out there that thinks he's going in there and he's going to throw for 330 and light up the scoreboard, they're nuts. You could clearly see he's not ready for that yet. And Matt Nagy knows that better than anyone.
You saw that in the preseason.
Right.
The way he was handling or mishandling protections and pressures, that was something that was very apparent. So that's the first thing is, if it is Fields, they better figure out a game plan as far as a lot of 7-man protections. Things where he doesn't have to deal with those hot routes and adjustments. Protect it up, let him take a shot downfield, throw some screens, some quick games, things like that, maybe some RPOs, things he's comfortable with, and then hope and pray that you can run the football with him being a part of that.
I like Cleveland as well. And by the way, if I'm Andy Dalton, I'm doing whatever hell I got to do to get back into that game because he might not come back.
Right. Guys both like the Browns minus the 7.5 at home. They only agreed on a couple here. Cleveland was one of them. And the Arizona Cardinals minus 7.5 at the Jaguars. That might be one of Pete's locks of the week. He has the Cardinals winning by, your predicted score I think was like 31-7. So you have them winning by 4 scores for the most part, 3 or 4 scores. So maybe lock that in.
Bad team in Jacksonville.
Minus 7.5 in Jacksonville. All right, coming up, we're going to hit the CBS early slate. Games including the Chargers and the Chiefs. Justin Herbert against Patrick Mahomes, both coming off upset losses at home. How will they respond? Our NFL game previews and picks presented by Caesars Sportsbook. And here is the CBS early slate. All games available on Paramount Plus if you want to stream them as well. Chiefs hosting the Chargers. Chiefs giving 6.5 at home. The Ravens on the road in Detroit as heavy road favorites. Steelers all banged up, hosting the Bengals. And the Colts, 0-2, And now they're heading on the road for 3 straight road games, the first in Tennessee. Let's start with that game at the very top. We've got Brady Quinn and Pete Prisco here. It's the highest total of the week, 55.5. The Chiefs giving 6.5.
Yeah, Pete's really concerned about the defense, but you have to understand that defense went up against a unique challenge in the Baltimore Ravens. I don't know that I'm taking that away and saying that's what they're going to see every week. You don't see Lamar Jackson every week. You don't see that sort of running scheme every single week. And look, obviously there's some concerns of whether or not they'll be able to stop the run, but I think the challenge here is more Justin Herbert, what that passing attack brings versus a secondary that I think is up for the challenge. So I like the Chiefs in this spot. I think it was a wake-up call for them. The way that game ended, I do think they're going to be motivated. They understand the importance of this being a divisional game, and I think they're going to respond in this one. 6.5, it's a big number. That's probably what bothers me the most about this, but I'm willing to lay it. And I also think we keep, Herbert, Mahomes, this is going to be a high-scoring game. I think it's going to hit the under. I think this is the NFL. It's going to be opposite of what we think going into this one, with both teams being so familiar. So it may be tough for them to get started in this game. I like the under. I like the Chiefs.
I like the Chargers. And the Chargers have played the Chiefs well in recent years. And a lot of that had to do with Gus Bradley and the way he played him. He's no longer there anymore. But I think they're going to be good enough on defense. Getting James back will be a factor on defense. I think he's been very good so far for them. I know they need another guy to start amping up the pass rush opposite Bosa. But I just have a feeling that Herbert will keep them in the game. I don't think 6.5 is the right number. I think this should be a 4 or 5 point game.
Yeah.
So if you're going to give me 6.5, I'll take the Chargers in the points. You're probably right about the over/under, although this thing can get loose. And if it gets loose, it's going to get really loose. So, you might be leaning to them, but you got to admit, if they start going up and down, that's going to be quick.
Of course. If it becomes a track meet in the first half, yeah, that's in trouble. I just think there's a lot of familiarity. We're going to see slow play to maybe begin, not as many big plays we're accustomed to seeing, and maybe it's a bit more of a defensive.
Quick question about the Chiefs. Did they make a mistake moving Chris Jones to defensive end?
I think so, yes.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it's impacted their ability to truly put him where he's best. And I don't care what defense we're talking about. Everyone talks about you need 2 defensive ends. Right. No, you don't.
No.
You just need 2 pass rushers.
Right.
Okay? That's all you need. You need 2 guys. One guy who can penetrate from one direction, another guy can force him to step up into that same pressure. And you could scheme other guys to loop and twist to find their ways of getting in or find their ways of getting the edges. I feel like it's been a bad move. It hasn't worked out so far. They need to put him back inside.
I agree. He needs to he took off weight to go play end. He's going to have to put his weight back on. Probably take a week.
Chiefs have been the worst against the spread the last season and a half or so.
Well, it's because everyone expects they're going to win the Super Bowl.
Right. The numbers are always inflated for them. By the way, it's the first time in almost 5 years that the Chiefs don't hold at least a share of the lead in the division. That's because the Ravens beat them last week, and the Ravens are heavy road favorites. The Lions, they just had the Aaron Rodgers game on Monday night, and now you got to face Lamar Jackson, and the Ravens feeling really good about themselves.
I just have no faith in what I saw in the Lions. And look, they played a really tough first half versus the Packers, but maybe that first half had more to do with what the Packers weren't doing than what the Lions were doing necessarily. And I didn't think Dan Campbell's played it smart. As I said to you earlier, this is not a good football team. Everyone wants to talk about all the statistics on going for it on 4th and 1 or 4th and 2. You know when you go for it? When you're a good football team. You take the field goal when you're not a good football team. You take the points, you try to ride on some of that momentum, see if you can hang around, stay close, and maybe the better football team makes a mistake. The Lions have not learned that. I don't think they're going to learn in this case either. It's a tough team to go up against. Their secondary is all banged up too. So I actually think this will be a better passing game for Lamar and the wide receivers in Baltimore. So I'm laying the points, and I also like the under in this one because I don't think Detroit's going to score much versus that defense.
I like what I've seen from the Lions. They rallied back against the 49ers. They showed up a little bit the first half on Monday night. They're just undermanned. They don't have any players. And when you don't have players, I don't care how hard you play, how well you coach, you're not winning. And this is a mismatch in a lot of ways. Their starting corners are a third-year player and a rookie, and the nickel corner is a rookie undrafted free agent. That's hard to play in this league that way. So I think this is going to be ugly. I think the Ravens seem to get it going offensively the other night. I am a little concerned about the Ravens' defense, though. We expected to see more from some sort of pass rush, and the young kid started flashing a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to say, Odafe Owe looks great.
But he made a play on the fumble, but, the biggest play.
They also ran a different scheme. They didn't pressure as much as they normally do last week.
Right, they didn't come after the Chiefs. I agree, but
They'll come after. That's going to change.
They'll come after Jared Goff. This is going to be ugly. I'll take the Ravens minus the point.
Both agree on the Ravens minus 9 points, 1 Eastern on CBS, as is this next one in the AFC North. The Bengals, Joe Burrow did not look good for 3 consecutive passes against the Bears. And the Steelers, Brady, just completely banged up already this season.
That's my concern here. Divisional matchup. These teams know each other well. I think this game could be close to most think. I'm willing, because I had such a bad week last week, to go ahead and lay the points with the favorite here. I do think it'll be a little more high-scoring game. But, yeah, there's concern whether Ben Roethlisberger will play and what he'll look like when he does play. Najee Harris has stepped up, though, in a big way. And I think they're going to be able to put up enough points in this one to be able to outlast the Cincinnati Bengals. But look, Burrow's not going to have the game he had last week. All right, we very rarely ever see that from him. 3 consecutive passes that end up in turnovers. As good as the Steelers' defense can be, that's not going to happen here. But I still like the Steelers laying the 4.5.
I don't know. The Steelers are still trying to cover people for the Raiders. I mean, that was bad. That was one of the worst performances I've seen from a Steelers defense in a long time. I mean, they made Derek Carr look like the MVP, which he probably is right now. So I just think that there's a concern here too with Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah, he's got the chest injury.
Yeah. So, I mean, if he doesn't go, not that he's played great either, but, I mean, they got to pick it up a little bit on offense. This is an opportunity to do that. I'm with you. I'll lay the point.
The issue is it's their offensive system. I mean, Matt Canada's now calling the plays for them. You know, he's gotten this tag like he was going to be some innovator, and I don't know where people really brought that from, because he never had that coming from the college ranks. So I was a little bit confused why people thought he was going to come in and sprinkle some magic pixie dust. This offense was going to start playing better because Matt Canada was there. Like, that wasn't his reputation at that level. So it's going to be interesting to see how this offense evolves, because clearly there's some disgruntlement between Ben Roethlisberger and their play caller, the way he voiced them out after the game. That's going to be something to keep an eye on this matchup.
Blame Canada. Steelers is the pick at minus 4.5. All right, 0-2 Colts lost both games at home. Now they got to go on the road for 3 straight. At the Titans, and Carson Wentz can't even walk. He's got problems with both ankles.
Both ankles. A double ankle injury. Pete, you've basically been around since the beginning of time. Have you ever heard of that with a player?
No, but if anybody's going to have it, it'd be Carson Wentz. I mean, isn't he always hurt? Aren't certain guys always hurt?
I'll tell you this much. He just does not move the same the way he did when he first came into the league. And I get it. I mean, you're looking at his injury history right now. And I think when you watch him, there's no suddenness, there's no explosion. I mean, when he first got in the league, you know, right, wrong, or indifferent, when he would take off, I mean, he could move, and he was running some guys over. I don't see that anymore. I think even if he plays, he's pressing. It almost feels like he feels the need to show everyone that the quarterback that he once was, he still is. And maybe he rushed too fast to come back after the foot surgery. Whatever the case may be, I liked what I saw from the Titans. They showed a lot of grit on the road in a tough environment to win that game versus Seattle. I'm banking on that Tennessee Titans team moving forward. Not what we saw week 1, but more of what we saw week 2.
I agree. They're still bad on defense. And so, but again, if no Wentz in the game, Jacob Eason.
Would they be better off going, though, in your mind, with a healthy Jacob Eason versus the version we're seeing of Carson Wentz at this point?
Probably. I would take my chances on that. And this could be an opportunity for the Titans defense to actually start looking better. They've been bad. Both games they were bad. I mean, there were guys so wide open on Sunday for Seattle. Tyler Lockett had 40 yards around him and nobody was near him. It was terrible. So they have to pick it up a little bit on defense. But I think this is an opportunity to do that. They got Henry going in the fourth quarter.
Got Julio Jones going, too.
They got Julio. He actually had a touchdown pass call back. Should have been.
That was
good. It was a terrible call. And so I do like the Titans in this spot to win the game and cover the number.
All right, recapping the picks for the early CBS games from Pete Prisco and Brady Quinn. And there is some agreement, both like the Ravens and the Steelers and the Tennessee Titans. The only disagreement there is that game at the top. Brady likes Kansas City minus 6.5. Pete thinks the Chargers can cover that 6.5. When we come back to the afternoon games on Sunday and a potential NFC Championship game preview. It is Matthew Stafford against Tom Brady and the Bucs. Taking a look at the late afternoon games, and our preview is presented by Caesars Sportsbook, picking every game against the spread as we do each and every week. CBS with a couple of games, but we don't have the doubleheader, so if you get these games, you don't get the early slate. Jets, Broncos, Dolphins, Raiders, both those home teams favorites. Those are the only 2 teams in the AFC remaining unbeaten, and they're in the same division. The biggest game, Buccaneers at Rams. It's a pick'em. Also have Seattle at Minnesota. It is now time for the second edition of Pete Prisco's Spinning Top of the Week.
Wow, you
Pete,
sing
who is
it
it?
too. He sings
It's got
it.
a theme song.
By the way, last week I gave the spinning top to Villanueva. They moved
Yeah.
him to left tackle, and the spinning top must have motivated him. He was much better playing his natural left side.
Seemed much more natural.
And so he looked better. I take credit for that. So maybe the Miami
Congrats,
Dolphins,
Of
maybe the
course.
Miami
Of
Dolphins
course you
will
take
be
credit.
happy when I give out this one to Austin Jackson, their left tackle. He was awful, but he wasn't alone. The Miami Dolphins line was terrible across the board, and they're talking about actually possibly replacing Austin Jackson. If you take a look here, inside there goes, boop, right on in. It's easy. That's on easy, right? I mean, he just struggled all day long with the edges. And you know, Brian Flores, and credit to him, he said that the center had some problems with the calls, but there's another one. That's not a sack. Well, there it is now, a sack. And all day, the edge guys had problems. They're talking about putting your Notre Dame kid back at left tackle, Leon Eichenberg.
That's his natural position. It'd make more sense.
And just sloppy. And the weird thing is, in watching his game, he started out playing pretty well. It wasn't until he got a little later as the game moved on that he got sloppy. But he also was coming off the COVID list. He missed week 1 with COVID, so we'll give him a little bit of benefit of the doubt. But if he doesn't pick it up, he's a first-round pick. And they need to get better play out of that first-round pick. Remember they traded for those 3 picks? They ended up, because they traded Minka Fitzpatrick and Laramie Tunsil and ended up with 3 first-round picks. And none of them is really producing to what they expected them to be. And in fact, Igbenogany, the corner, was inactive last week for the second straight week.
You singled Jackson out, but as you mentioned, it's the whole offensive line.
6
Tua was
sacks.
getting slapped around. He barely played and took a bunch of hits.
Look, credit the Buffalo Bills to a degree. I also felt like when Jacoby Brissett got in there, he was holding on to the football a little bit too long. It's the play calling too. They need to figure out, hey, look, this is not our starter in there. We need to get the ball out of his hand quickly. Do something to help out with that. I mean, the hit.
Those plays you saw, there was nothing. He could have got the ball out quickly there, and he was going to get whacked
Look,
anyway.
at some point in time, too, especially as a veteran player, Jacoby Brissett needs to know he's got to get rid of the football or take off and run. He's very capable as a runner.
But this team has invested a lot
No,
of assets.
I'm not
in their
arguing
offensive
that.
line.
In particular in their offensive line, they need to be better. They need to play better,
Yeah.
regardless of who's at quarterback.
And they're playing a good team when it comes to rushing the passer this week.
That would be the Vegas Raiders, who are 4-point favorites at home. Vegas 2-0, and they've beaten 2 good teams in the Ravens and the Steelers already. Now play the Dolphins.
Pete said earlier, I mean, Derek Carr's playing at an MVP level. I know Gus Bradley's helped improve this defense. Yannick Ngakoue is a great pickup. It's helping out their pass rush. We already know about Max Crosby. They're still not quite there, in my mind, offensively or defensively. Offensively, it's been the Derek Carr show because they can't run the football right now. He's got no help. It's just this passing game, the way it's evolving, guys like Henry Ruggs continuing to emerge. So I think you're going to see more of that. I love the Raiders in this spot, especially with not knowing who's going to be the starter, if it's going to be Tua, how he's going to deal with the rib injury, or if it's going to be Jacoby Brissett. Either way, I'll go ahead and lay the 4 points here, and I like the over. I think there'll be a decent amount of scoring.
The rib injury is just a pain management situation.
Well, you're gonna shoot it up. I dealt with this in 2012. You get a shot of Novocaine in there. You're not going to be able to feel it now. The only thing that's going to hurt you is you can do more damage to that, and you're not going to know because you can't feel it. Or if you have a doctor, like in the case of Tyrod Taylor, he could potentially puncture your lung. Apparently, there's a percentage chance of that happening, I guess. But
so you got to be careful with it.
yeah,
Would you play him?
Anything.
Would you play him?
It's a tough decision because I'm not there. I don't know the severity of how he's feeling. And again, I think it's on him. He's got to make the decision of whether or not he wants to take that risk. For me, it was a special flap jacket, rib protector, shoot it up, let's go. Not everyone is going to feel that way.
I think he's a tough guy, actually, when it comes to playing football. I think he wants to play, but I'd be careful with him. I mean, this is the guy you're supposed to build this franchise around, at least find out the rest of the year. Whether it's him or Brissett, the line was a mess last week, and I don't think you can just fix that in a week, whether you shuffle guys around or not. So I think the Raiders will get after him. You mentioned it. Derek Carr right now would probably be in the MVP conversation.
Would probably.
He'd be the MVP.
He's played clutch.
And
He's played phenomenal.
the other thing, Ruggs is starting to look like the Ruggs that I thought he would look like. I took a lot of abuse from guys, Jamie Eisenberg and gang, for saying Ruggs would be the best receiver in that class. I still believe that, and we're starting to see it a little bit.
Poor Jamie can't even defend himself out
No.
here. Raiders, by the way, started the season with a 13% chance to make the postseason, according to Sportsline. Now it's up to about 50%. Let's move on to the other CBS game just after 4 Eastern time, and it's another 2-0 team from the AFC West. Broncos, this is the largest line of the weekend, the only double-digit spread. Broncos giving 11 at home, the lowest total as well at 41.
Yeah, Jack, our producer, I'm changing my pick. I'm not doing this, all right? For some reason, I looked at the line. It's the biggest of the week. There's no way the Jets can continue to be this bad. So I was going to go ahead and take the points, but Jack, change my pick. I'm not doing this. The Broncos look fantastic. Their defense is back playing the way they need to be. They've got a quarterback in Teddy Bridgewater who's a great distributor. They've got weapons on the outside, and they're running the football well. I don't see any way how the Jets, at least if they look anywhere close to how they've looked the first 2 weeks, can hang or stay close with this Broncos team. So I know what I said earlier, but give me the Broncos. I think they'll score a lot of points in this one. I'm not taking the Jets. I'm not doing it, all right? I was trying to differentiate so we can catch back up. I'm not going to do it.
I wouldn't take the Jets either in this spot. I think, look, Zach Wilson's struggling, and he got the Belichick treatment last week, and they did a great job of fooling him. He made some really bad throws. But this
was from clean pockets. What do you mean the Belichick treatment?
They fooled him on the back end. But there's two games now where he hasn't looked very good, and starting to become a concern, I think. And now he plays this Denver defense with all those cover players on the back end. They did a really good job against Trevor Lawrence last week. They played a lot more zone than you expected last week, and it slowed them down a great deal. So it'll be interesting to see how they play Zach Wilson, but I think this is a mismatch. Come on, Brady, take the Jets. I got the Broncos. You take the Jets.
No, I am not. Look, back to the zone comment. If you want to slow down a quarterback in the way he's going to see the field, play zone, especially with these rookie quarterbacks.
I agree.
Get their eyes on you, especially when you're indecisive as a young player in the league. There's nothing worse than feeling like everyone's watching you and they're looking at any little thing you do. When it's man-to-man, it's easy because now I'm just looking out there saying, where's my winner? Where's the matchup that I can rely on? I'm going to hold that middle field safety. I'm going to look him off one way or another, and then I'm going to go find my matchup. So I would say anytime you're taking a rookie quarterback, mix in more variations of zone to confuse and make them feel uncomfortable looking downfield.
And the Broncos played more man on the opening possession, and he went down the field and threw a touchdown pass against man coverage. They adapted, and he didn't do a very good job against it.
4 picks last week. How many picks does he throw this week against the Broncos?
3.
3? Good heavens! I mean, if you're going to put me
at
a half, I would take the over. We'll throw at least 1.
If you put him in the blowout situation, he's going to be playing.
I think there's a greater chance of a sack fumble with the way that rush can get after opposing quarterbacks.
3.
3. Okay, so you have Zach Wilson throwing.
He's going to end up throwing 35, 40 times. He's going to be behind.
That would be 8 picks through the first 3 weeks of the season.
Not good.
Maybe 35, 40 picks.
I think Brady's on the verge of calling him a bust too.
I never said that, but I also told you I was never high on him in the first place.
I know you weren't.
Let's move on to the game of the day, or so we expect, and that's the 2-0 Bucs at the 2-0 Rams, and this one is a pick 'em.
And I'm going to go with the Tampa Bay Bucs because it's a golden rule. You don't bet against Tom Brady and the Bucs. I've learned that throughout the years of doing this with you, Pete. And plus, I have more faith in this team right now. I know you said the defense isn't playing that well. Say what you want. They'll be fine in this matchup. And I think this is really the first true test more for the LA Rams and Matt Stafford. And that's what I'm more curious to see in this one is at home, with that fan base that should be excited about having the defending Super Bowl champs in the house, if they can figure out a way of scoring enough to beat the defending champs. I don't see it. I like the Bucs, and I'm going to take the under, too. I think this will be more of a defensive game.
Oh, I disagree with you on the over-under. I think this one's soaring over. I think this is going to be a track meet up and down the field. I think both offenses will do a really good job. I'm with you. They're not going to stop Brady. That offense right now is explosive. They're protecting people, protecting him up front, making plays down the field. But I also, again, don't think the Bucs, with the corner situation being what it is, it's not as good. They have backup players playing. I think they're going to be able to take some shots against them. High-scoring game, but I'm taking the Bucs too. I think the Bucs find a way to win this game.
You don't think Tom Brady is bringing some of that scheme from when they played him in the Super Bowl and bringing that right back again for the LA Rams?
That's not who the Bucs are, though.
I know you say that, but we acted like they were going to run Bruce Arians and Brian Leftwich offenses as the season went on. It looked more a little bit from what we saw from Tom Brady.
But defensively, that's not what Todd Bowles does.
Sure, but he can give them some secrets. What worked? He's in tune with that.
Yeah, I don't think that'll happen. But I think their defense will struggle again here.
Brady with a career high 9 touchdown passes through the first.
He's on pace for 76.
Amazing. First game in the city of Los Angeles. That's kind of crazy. Okay, one more game at 4:25 Eastern time. It's a Fox game. 1-1 Seahawks just blew it. Speaking of blowing it, the Vikings. Hope you heard the radio call from the Vikings team. Another Paul Allen classic after the missed field goal late against the Cardinals. I think the Vikings are the best 0-2 team in the NFL, though.
There's no doubt. I mean, they have a 12% chance. We gave it the stats earlier this week between 1990 and 2019. About 12% of the time, teams who start 0-2.
But it's 17 games now.
Sure, but it's 17 games, but it's also really more importantly 14 teams go to the playoffs.
Right.
The problem is last year, no team that went 0-2 went to the playoffs.
Right.
So that's more the issue for Minnesota.
Weak division, though.
It is a weak division.
And 8 of 11 that started 2-0 went to the playoffs last
Sure.
year. So I get it.
But when you're looking at this division to that point, it is a weak division. They're playing some good football. I mean, they're a field goal away at the end of that game from winning it. They should have won that. And so I'm a little concerned about this one. But Seattle's played well on the road. I also think it'll be a wake-up call for them the way they dropped that game. They're going to be highly motivated coming back into it to have something to prove, Russell Wilson in particular. And the Vikings defense still isn't where I think I thought it would be, or at least what it was 4 years ago under Mike Zimmer. So I'm going to go ahead and lay the point here because it's not much as it is. I also think this will be a lower scoring game again. I know you think everything's going to be a shootout.
No, not everything.
I don't see that.
Pete has every defense in the NFL being a bad defense.
That's right.
But, I mean, let me ask you this.
Hold on. Quarterback scales for this one.
Oh, it's Russell Wilson by a ton. Let me ask you this. Is this a big game?
I mean, when you're 0-2, yeah, every game's a big game from here on out.
Don't tell Kirk Cousins that then, because I think they're going to find a way to win this game. I think desperation is in play here. They're at home. They haven't been at home yet. This is a big game for the Vikings, and I think in a shootout, because I think they've improved offensively. We saw that against Arizona. Arizona looked dominant on defense a couple weeks ago against the Titans, looked terrible on defense last week. I think the Vikings will score a lot. I think Jefferson starts getting to really go in this game, and I think Seattle will score a lot. But in the end, I'll take the Vikings to win it.
I'm more worried about Dalvin Cook going off and really the rushing attack in general in Minnesota. The way the Seattle defense looked versus the run. I realize Derrick Henry's a different animal, but so is Dalvin Cook. And that's the hard part about it is you're going up against two great running backs in this league. That's my biggest concern, I think, for Seattle in this one.
But it took him throwing the football to Julio and that gang to get them going before they finally ran it.
No, it's just enough touches.
Yeah.
You give that guy the ball enough, by touch 20 plus, no defender wants to try to tackle Derrick Henry anymore.
And Cook was very good last week.
Okay, let's recap the picks from the late afternoon games from Pete Prisco and Brady Quinn. You got a Vegas agreement, you got a Broncos agreement, you got a Bucs agreement. The only differ is on Seattle and Minnesota. And Pete also, I know it's not listed there, but it sounds like Pete is on the over 55
We had a
points.
couple locked unities, though. What happened with that? Jack can't throw
Locked
the confetti?
unity. Where's the confetti at? Come on, Jackie. All right.
We haven't agreed that much. He hasn't have it ready.
We've got the primetime games to pick, including the Packers and the 49ers. Has Aaron Rodgers figured it out? Can the 49ers survive their rushing attack, which continuously gets depleted? Got that pick next. Our NFL game previews and picks presented by Caesars Sportsbook. Our primetime games Sunday and Monday. You got the Packers at the Niners and another 4-point spread in Dallas on Monday night. Eagles and Cowboys. Let's pick them with our cast of winners, our teammates. Pete Prisco, Brady Quinn, I'm Chris Hassel. Sunday Night Football, did we see what we wanted to see from Aaron Rodgers on Monday night, enough to make you pick the Packers this Sunday night?
Yes, and I think we also saw for the entire team. They look like an entirely different team than what we saw in week one. So all things were pointing in a better direction here. But no, I think you saw Aaron Rodgers playing a little bit more with a chip on his shoulder. Almost like he wasn't as motivated week one, taking off the offseason and being in training camp but not really playing much. And then it was a wake-up call for them. And they came out and they played exactly the way I think a lot of us thought they were going to. He looked on point. He looked efficient. The rushing attack was there. Aaron Jones, might want to throw him into the MVP conversation as far as running backs
did nothing
go.
in the first game.
No, but I'm saying at least in this game, looking at the path that he's going to be on, if this is how he's going to play the rest of the season. So the bottom line is they're in a much better spot than they were. The 49ers are banged up. I do think this will be a competitive game. Kyle Shanahan always keeps their teams in these games. But I like the Packers here. And if you're going to go ahead and give me 4 points, I'll take them.
I'll take the 4 points as well. I think I like what I saw from their offense. It looked like it was back in rhythm. They were so flat in the first game. Flat. They were lifeless.
He was flat.
The team
Rodgers
was flat. The receivers didn't play well. They just looked flat. It was not a good performance. And I'll blame the coach for that one. Get your team ready to play.
Maybe it's just Jacksonville.
Maybe so. Everybody who goes into that stadium gets flat, except the winning team usually. But I think this time they bounce back. My only real concern here, and I know the 49ers are banged up with the running back situation, is that they've traditionally run it right down their throats. Remember the championship game a couple years ago? They rushed for almost 300 yards in that game. So that's a concern, but I'll take the points. San Francisco's probably going to win the game by a small margin, but you're going to give me 4 and Aaron Rodgers, I'll take it.
Both like the Packers -4 on Sunday night. On Monday night, it's a 4-point spread as well. The Cowboys at home giving 4 to the Eagles. Pete, make the case for Philadelphia in this game.
Oh, well, you could make a case because I think Jalen Hurts, if they had kicked a field goal late in the first half, I think they win that game. I think Nick Sirianni made a bad decision to gimmick up a play on 4th and goal from the 2, and it didn't work. 49ers go down, it's 7-3 at the half. All of a sudden, it's a different game. Philly dominated the game for most of the first half, and I thought Jalen Hurts did some things getting outside the pocket. So that's where that will be in play. Dallas defense played better last week. Even they were down their starting defensive ends. But this is a game where I think the Eagles can keep it close. They will hang around for a while in this game.
I want to go back to the Dallas defense. Micah Parsons, draft play linebacker, was playing D-end. Might stay there at the way he looked. And I know he's got a background, but I think back in high school he played some defensive end. So he played so well, you might want to keep him there at least for a while. But the bottom line is here, I love what I'm seeing for the Cowboys. I think they're the best team in this division. I think they're going to show it here. The Eagles are playing better than I thought they were, but I'm still waiting for that regression. I do think at some point in time we're going to see this team start to calm down.
Where's the regression?
I'm 4 points.
Offense or defense?
Offensively.
Wow.
Offensively.
Yeah, I thought they looked good. I thought the young receivers are starting.
They are. Look, they've got speed, and that's the concern in this matchup.
Right, which is why I took the Eagles, by the way.
Can Hurts deliver it to him? That's going to be the question.
I think he did some good things last week. He made a couple really good throws.
He's getting better and better.
Shot out of his own end zone for
sure.
Could have been a touchdown. So I like the Eagles plus the points in this game.
But the Cowboys to win?
Yep.
All right, Cowboys have been pretty impressive. Almost beat the Bucs in Tampa and then went into L.A. and beat the Chargers. Though they differ on those picks on Monday night. What's that?
You're in the almost game already, huh?
I'm always in the almost game, baby. Packers on Sunday night is the pick for both of the fellas. I think we're going to have a good week. After last week, both the guys sub 500.
Yeah.
Well, somebody's going to have a good week because you differed on a lot. Right?
Yeah, or
we split.
Yeah, we split.
All right.
Then Brady will be closer to 500 this week.
Those are picks for all 16 games this week. Have a good week 3.